Most people think wearing a mask is about pretending to be someone else. But for some, it's the only way to survive the everyday noise of expectations. Family, school, work, strangers who want versions of you that never quite match the real thing. Alex had worn that mask for so long, they could barely remember the first time it settled onto their face. Maybe it started back in middle school, when showing emotion meant giving someone ammunition. Or maybe it was high school, when vulnerability was treated like a weakness you had better hide quickly. By adulthood, the mask felt less like protection and more like a second skin. Tight, polished, practiced. Neighbors said Alex was quiet but friendly. Co-workers said reliable. Baristas said polite. Nobody said complicated, scared, lonely, or exhausted. Nobody ever saw the trembling underneath. That was the point. Alex lived in a small apartment overlooking a street that was always a little too loud, yet somehow comforting in its chaos. The noise filled the empty spaces inside them with something other than their own thoughts. Nights were spent working late, scrolling endlessly, or staring out the window pretending the city lights were enough company. They liked the routine. It felt predictable, safe, almost like hiding in plain sight. But deep down, there was this tiny ache, annoying, persistent, like a loose thread on a shirt you're afraid to pull. The kind of ache that whispers, "You weren't meant to do this alone." Alex ignored it. They were good at ignoring things. Except that morning, something different happened. They were running late, rushing down the apartment hallway, trying to keep their expression neutral, because even the smallest crack felt dangerous. As they turned the corner, they nearly collided with someone carrying an armful of boxes. Papers exploded everywhere like startled birds. Alex froze. The stranger laughed, an actual warm laugh, and said, "Wow, first day in the building and I've already created a disaster. Help me out?" Alex hesitated, not because they didn't want to help, but because interacting with someone new always felt like stepping too close to a cliff edge. You never knew who could see through you with just one wrong word. Still, refusing would be worse. So they knelt and started picking up the scattered papers. The stranger introduced themselves as Jamie, new tenant, a little chaotic, a lot friendly, the type of person who filled space with ease, like they weren't afraid of being known. Alex envied that, quietly. Jamie said thanks, smiled, and didn't walk away immediately. Instead, they lingered, curious, open, unguarded, in a way that made Alex feel suddenly, stupidly seen. Just for a moment. And that was enough to make Alex's stomach twist. It was the first time in a long time that their mask felt unstable. The next morning, Alex expected life to snap back into its quiet, comfortable rhythm. Wake up, coffee, work, avoid unnecessary human interaction. But the universe apparently had other ideas. It started with a knock. Not a loud, aggressive knock, just 3 light taps, rhythmic and oddly cheerful. Alex opened the door a few inches, keeping their face carefully neutral. Jamie stood there, holding a lopsided plastic container. "I made muffins. Well, half-made. My mixer died, so they're kind of uneven. But edible. Probably." Alex blinked. People didn't do this. Not in this building, not in this city, not in Alex's carefully managed bubble of distance. "Why?" Alex asked before they could stop themselves. Jamie shrugged like it was the simplest thing in the world. "New neighbors deserve muffins. Also, I needed an excuse to say hi again." Alex's stomach tightened. Casual friendliness always felt like a test they didn't study for. But they took the container anyway, mostly because politeness was easier than trying to explain why accepting kindness made them feel exposed. Jamie didn't leave right away. They leaned casually against the doorframe, as if Alex's hesitation didn't register as rejection. "So what do people around here do for fun?" "Please don't say nothing, because I refuse to believe a city this noisy has no personality." Alex exhaled softly. "People work, people commute, people mind their business." "That's depressing," Jamie said with a grin. "Guess I'll have to add some personality myself." And before Alex could shut down the conversation, Jamie launched into a story about their old apartment. Something about a landlord who wore flip-flops year-round and a neighbor who trained parrots at 2 a.m. Whether the story was funny or absurd or both, Alex found themselves listening. Really listening. Jamie talked with their hands, laughed at their own jokes, and filled the hallway with energy that clashed wildly with Alex's practiced calm. But instead of irritating Alex, it chipped at something brittle inside them. The conversation ended only because Jamie's phone buzzed. "Gotta run," they said. "But hey, if you ever want to grab coffee or complain about life with another human being, I'm your person." Alex nodded, but didn't commit to anything. Commitment meant possibility, and possibility meant risk. After Jamie left, Alex stared at the muffin container, sitting in their hands, as if it was something dangerous. And maybe it was, because accepting it meant acknowledging a connection, even a small one. Alex set it on the kitchen counter and walked away. 2 steps later, they turned back and opened it. Curiosity beat caution. The muffins were lumpy, uneven, and slightly burnt. Alex laughed. An actual, involuntary, startled laugh. It echoed strangely in the apartment, like the space wasn't used to hearing anything warm. That night, Alex replayed the hallway conversation, annoyed at themselves for doing so. Jamie was just being friendly, just a neighbor, just someone who didn't know Alex's rules. People like Jamie didn't stay, not when they saw what was really underneath. And yet, the next morning, another knock. This time, 2 taps. "Hey," Jamie said, holding a coffee cup. "Thought you might need this. You look like someone who forgets breakfast." Alex frowned. "How would you know that?" Jamie smiled. "Instinct." Alex felt something unsettling, the beginning of comfort, the beginning of familiarity, which was dangerous because familiarity leads to closeness, and closeness leads to being seen. Alex didn't know it yet, but this was only the start of Jamie not following the script Alex relied on their whole life. For the next week, Jamie's presence became predictable, not in a suffocating way, just in the casual orbit of someone who genuinely liked people. They'd run into Alex in the lobby, in the elevator, in the corner store downstairs where the cashier always looked half asleep. And each time, Jamie greeted Alex like they were old friends, instead of near strangers. It was disarming. Alex tried, really tried, to stay emotionally out of reach. They kept conversations short, nodded instead of opening up, used vague non-answers like a shield. But Jamie had this unnerving habit of looking directly at people when they spoke, like they actually wanted to hear the response. That alone felt dangerous. One evening, after a particularly draining day at work, Alex came home mentally shut down. The mask was tight, rigid, exhausted. They wanted silence, solitude, and maybe a blanket fort to hide in. Instead, they found Jamie sitting on the hallway floor surrounded by cardboard pieces that vaguely resembled the skeleton of a bookshelf. "Okay, before you judge me," Jamie said without looking up. "I swear this thing came with instructions. They're just aggressively unhelpful." Alex blinked. "Why are you building it outside your apartment?" "Because inside my apartment there's a 70% chance I'd throw something. Out here I have witnesses, which lowers the risk. Alex's lips twitched despite themselves. Need help? The moment the word slipped out, regret hit instantly. Helping meant time. Time meant talking. Talking meant vulnerability. Vulnerability meant exposure. Alex braced for it. But Jamie didn't take advantage. They didn't ask probing questions or dig into Alex's personal life. Instead, they shoved a screwdriver toward Alex and said, "Yes, please, before I emotionally bond with this stupid piece of wood." Something softened. They worked quietly side by side. No pressure, no awkward expectations, just shared frustration over furniture that refused to cooperate. Halfway through, Jamie said, "You know, you kind of relax around tasks. Like when your hands are busy, your brain chills out." Alex stiffened. Observations, especially correct ones, always felt like someone reaching too far beneath the surface. "People say that sometimes," Alex replied, keeping their voice neutral. Jamie smiled. "It's a good thing. Makes you feel grounded. Or at least less like you're ready to sprint out of the room." Alex froze. "Do I look like that often?" Jamie hesitated, then answered gently. "Sometimes like you're guarded. Not in a bad way. Just in a please don't notice me too much way." The words hit harder than Alex expected. Masks only worked when people didn't question them. Jamie wasn't questioning maliciously, just noticing, and that made everything feel a little too raw. Still, Alex kept helping, and when the bookshelf finally stood upright, slightly crooked but standing, Jamie cheered like they'd conquered a mountain. They turned to Alex and said, "You're kind of awesome, you know that?" Alex's heart lurched. Compliments were landmines. They didn't know where to step without something blowing up inside them. "I'm not," Alex muttered. "Not really." Jamie paused, studying them, not judging, just understanding something unspoken. "It's okay if you don't see it yet." And that, those 8 simple words, felt like a blow strong enough to shake something loose inside Alex. Later that night, alone in their apartment, Alex paced in slow, restless circles. Their mask felt heavier than usual, like wearing it after being seen, even slightly, took more effort. They kept replaying Jamie's words. "It's okay if you don't see it yet." Who says things like that? Who sees past sarcasm and deflection and still stays? It didn't make sense. People didn't stay. Not when Alex's walls got in the way. Not when closeness revealed how messy everything inside them really was. The realization pressed on their chest like a weight, because as much as Alex wanted distance, a part of them feared losing the one person who wasn't fooled by the armor. And fear, real fear, was something Alex hated more than anything. Alex had always been good at pretending things were fine. But pretending is a skill born from necessity, and necessity usually has a story behind it. A story Alex avoided like a wound they didn't want to reopen. But the mind has its own way of dragging old ghosts back to the surface. It happened one night after another harmless encounter with Jamie. They'd chatted in the elevator, just small talk, nothing emotional, nothing dangerous. Yet something about Jamie's ease, their openness, their total lack of judgment, it stirred something Alex had buried years ago. That night, Alex dreamed, and in the dream, they were 15 again, sitting at a dinner table that always smelled faintly of burnt toast and disappointment. Their father lectured them about keeping emotions in check. Their mother nodded along like vulnerability was a crime, punishable by silence. Alex remembered speaking just once about feeling overwhelmed. They remembered how quickly the room turned to ice, how adults who were supposed to protect them instead criticized them for being dramatic and drawing attention. The message had been clear. Showing who you are makes people turn away. So Alex stopped showing, and people stopped turning away. At least on the surface. In the dream, the teenage version of themselves whispered the same old line. Don't let anyone close. It always ends in pieces. Alex woke up with their heart pounding, sheets tangled around their legs, the room too quiet, too familiar, too lonely. They sat up, pressing the heels of their hands into their eyes, trying to erase the memory. But memories don't vanish on command. They pulse, they echo, they claw their way into the present, whether you want them to or not. The next day, Alex moved like a glitching version of themselves, half present, half dragged backward in time. Their co-workers noticed the flat tone. The barista noticed the forced smile. Even the elevator seemed to sense their mood, stopping with a judder that made Alex flinch. Of course, Jamie noticed too. They ran into each other in the building's laundry room, a place Alex avoided because small talk was inevitable. Alex was stuffing clothes into a washer with unnecessary force when Jamie walked in, holding a bag of detergent pots, like they were some fun prize from a carnival. "Whoa," Jamie said, raising both eyebrows. "Laundry isn't a combat sport, you know." Alex didn't laugh. They didn't even fake one. Jamie's smile faded. "Hey, you okay?" Alex kept their eyes on the washer. "Just tired." It wasn't a lie. Just not the whole truth. Jamie leaned against a folding table. "You don't have to tell me, but you look like you're carrying something heavy." Alex's jaw tightened. Everyone carries something. Jamie paused, catching the subtext. "Yeah. But some people carry it alone." The words scraped at Alex's composure. They hated how exposed they suddenly felt, as if Jamie could see the old wounds stitched beneath their skin. Alex shook their head. "I don't need help. I'm fine." It came out sharper than intended. Jamie didn't flinch. "Okay, but I'm here anyway." And that, more than anything, made Alex's chest ache. Because it wasn't a demand, wasn't pressure. It was an invitation. A gentle one Alex didn't know how to accept. The silence between them stretched, heavy but not hostile. Eventually, Jamie tossed a detergent pod into their washer and said, "You know, everyone has a past. Some just pretend they don't." Alex swallowed hard. "Why are you telling me that?" "Because pretending doesn't make it smaller," Jamie said softly. "Just lonelier." The washing machines hummed loudly, filling the space with white noise that felt too intimate. Alex felt the old fear rise, the fear that someone might look too closely, understand too much. Because understanding leads to acceptance, and acceptance can disappear the moment someone sees the messy parts. But Jamie didn't push. They didn't pry. They simply stayed on the other side of the room, folding a blanket quietly, giving Alex space without walking away. And for the first time in a long time, Alex didn't feel judged, just noticed. Noticed in a way that made the past feel less like a monster and more like a shadow. Still haunting, but not undefeatable. For a few days, Alex tried to return to their old routines, the avoidance routines, the safe ones, the ones built from years of habit and self-defense. They left earlier for work, came home later, timed elevator rides to avoid coincidences, put on headphones even when no music was playing. It wasn't that Alex disliked Jamie. It was that liking them felt dangerous. Because every moment with Jamie made hope feel tempting. And hope, Alex knew too well, was a slippery slope into vulnerability. At first, the distance sort of worked. Life felt quieter again, streamlined, manageable. But manageable wasn't the same as comfortable, and it definitely wasn't the same as happy. Something felt off. The silence at home was louder. The city noise outside felt harsher. Even the apartment, once a sanctuary, began to feel like a padded cell. Alex found themselves doing things they never used to, checking the hallway peephole before stepping out, pausing mid-scroll on their phone, wondering if Jamie had texted, even though they'd never exchanged numbers, listening for footsteps that didn't come. The absence was strangely present. Then one evening, Alex came home to find a small sticky note on their door, a simple doodle, a crooked bookshelf with a smiley face, and the words, "It's still standing, barely. Thought you should know." Alex stared at it far too long. This was supposed to make it easier to stay distant. It didn't. Instead, it made something twist sharply inside their chest. The part that remembered connection didn't always mean pain, even if the past had convinced them otherwise. But fear is persuasive, and the past is persistent. The next day, fate, or the faulty elevator, interfered. Alex stepped inside, pressed their floor, and just as the doors began to close, Jamie slipped in. "Hey," Jamie said, a little breathless from rushing. Alex managed a stiff nod. "Hi." The silence that followed was dense, not angry, not awkward, just full of all the things Alex didn't know how to say. Jamie glanced at them. "Haven't seen you around." "Been busy?" Alex muttered. Jamie nodded slowly, like they knew it was only half true, but wouldn't call it out. "Yeah, I figured." The elevator hummed. Floors blinked past. Alex kept their eyes on the numbers, counting them like lifelines. Jamie's voice broke the quiet. Not pushy, just honest. "You know, you don't have to disappear on me." Alex's throat tightened. "I'm not disappearing." Jamie gave a small, sad smile. "You're trying really hard not to be seen." That hit too close, too true, too sharp. Alex felt their pulse spike, fear curling in their stomach. "I just need space," Alex said quickly. "It's nothing personal." Jamie nodded, but there was something in their eyes, an understanding that hurt in a way Alex wasn't prepared for. "I get it, and I'll give you space. Just don't assume I want anything from you. I like being your friend. That's all." Friend? That word felt foreign, beautiful, threatening. The elevator dinged. Alex exhaled with relief, stepping out as quickly as possible. But Jamie called after them, soft but steady. "Just so you know, some people stay even when you're scared." Alex froze for half a second, long enough to feel the words hit, long enough for the fear to flare up, sharp and instinctive. They walked away anyway. Inside their apartment, Alex pressed their back to the door and let out a trembling breath. They hated how much that conversation rattled them, hated how kindness felt like pressure, hated how closeness felt like risk, but most of all, they hated that a small part of them, tiny, trembling, stubborn, wanted to believe Jamie, wanted to test the idea that someone might stay. Yet fear screamed louder, and for now, fear still won. Alex expected Jamie to pull back after the elevator moment. Most people did. That's how the pattern usually went. Alex distances. People get confused. People give up. Alex stays safe. But Jamie didn't vanish. They respected the space, yes. They didn't knock on Alex's door, or drop muffins, or appear magically around corners. But when they did cross paths, they acted normal, warm, consistent. No tension, no disappointment, no guilt-tripping. Just steady. And that steadiness felt foreign to Alex, like trying to read a language they'd never learned, but somehow recognized pieces of. One evening, Alex was checking their mailbox when Jamie walked in, carrying a plant that looked seconds away from death. A limp fern, drooping like it had given up on life entirely. Jamie sighed dramatically. Okay, I need your input. Be brutal. Is this plant salvageable or should I hold a funeral? Alex's lips tugged upward before they could stop it. It's not dead. Just dehydrated. Jamie blinked. Like me when I forget to drink water for 12 hours? Alex actually laughed. A small one, but real. Jamie brightened at the sound, but didn't comment on it, which Alex appreciated more than they could say. They chatted lightly about the plant, favorite snacks, and the broken laundry machine on the 3rd floor. Nothing deep, nothing dangerous. But something about the simplicity made Alex's chest loosen for the first time in weeks. When the conversation ended, Jamie offered a casual wave and headed upstairs. No pressure to walk together, no lingering expectation, just genuine connection without demand. And that was the first moment Alex wondered if trust wasn't something huge and terrifying. Maybe it wasn't dramatic confessions or emotional unraveling. Maybe it was this, small, gentle exchanges that didn't require ripping off all the armor at once. Over the next few days, the pattern repeated, passing comments, shared complaints about elevator speed, quick smiles that didn't feel forced, short conversations Alex could exit whenever they needed. Jamie seemed to understand the rhythm instinctively. Give space, hold space, don't push. And Alex found themselves softening, just a little. One night, Alex found the dying plant outside their door with another sticky note. You were right. Water helps. I think it likes you more than it likes me. Underneath was a cartoon drawing of the plant flexing tiny muscular leaves. Alex rolled their eyes, and then very carefully brought the plant inside. They didn't realize until later how symbolic that act was. Letting something living into their space felt intimate, unexpected, strangely comforting. A few evenings later, Alex and Jamie ended up walking into the building at the same time. It was raining, the kind of soft drizzle that made the streetlights blur. Jamie held a half-collapsed umbrella. Alex was soaked. Wow, Jamie said. You look like a very dramatic music video. Alex snorted. Had a long day. Jamie's expression shifted. Still light, but with a thread of concern woven in. Want to talk about it? Alex's instinct shut it down. Their fear, exposure, their heart. Maybe. They surprised themselves by saying, not really, but maybe you could just hang out. Like, quietly? Jamie smiled, gentle and warm. Yeah, I can do quiet. They ended up in Alex's apartment, sitting on opposite ends of the couch, watching a documentary about penguins because it was the first thing that popped up. They didn't talk much. Didn't need to. And for the first time in a long time, Alex felt safe in someone's presence. Not because they hid things, but because they didn't have to perform. Halfway through the documentary, Alex whispered, "Thanks." Jamie didn't even look away from the screen. Anytime. It wasn't a big moment, but it was a true one. A small step toward trust. A small step toward letting someone in. A small step toward being seen without unraveling. For a while, the new rhythm between Alex and Jamie held steady. Not too close, not too distant. Comfortable, predictable, safe enough. But trust, even in small doses, changes things. It shifts expectations. It makes presence feel normal and absence feel louder than it should. One Thursday evening, Alex came home mentally frayed. Work had been a mess. Missed deadlines, miscommunications. A supervisor who acted like sighing was a form of punctuation. Alex wanted nothing more than to collapse and sink into silence. But when they stepped off the elevator, Jamie was standing in the hallway, excited, holding 2 movie tickets. "There you are. I was hoping I'd catch you. I got tickets to this weird indie film everyone says is life-changing, but also kind of confusing. You in?" Alex froze. Wrong day, wrong mood, wrong mental bandwidth. They swallowed hard. "I can't." Jamie's smile softened. "Long day?" Alex nodded. "Yeah, no problem," Jamie said instantly. "How about we just grab food and chill instead?" Too much, too close, too many options, too much pressure. Maybe not from Jamie, but from Alex's own spiraling fear. "I said I can't," Alex repeated, sharper this time. Jamie blinked. "Okay, but you don't have to snap. I'm just offering." Alex felt embarrassment ignite, then defensiveness, then panic. "I'm not snapping. I just need space. Why is that so hard to understand?" The hallway fell quiet. Still. Heavy. Jamie stared at Alex, not angrily, but hurt. Quietly hurt, and somehow that was worse than shouting. "I do understand," Jamie said softly, "but it kind of feels like you disappear whenever something gets too close." Alex's chest tightened painfully. "That's not true." Jamie held their gaze. "Isn't it?" The words landed with the force of a truth Alex didn't want to confront. Alex looked away, jaw clenched. "I didn't ask you to care this much." Jamie exhaled, the kind of exhale that comes from being tired in a way that isn't physical. "I know you didn't. But I care anyway. And caring shouldn't feel like a crime." Alex's voice rose, unsteady. "I never asked you to get involved in my life." Jamie's voice didn't rise, it only steadied. "You didn't have to, you let me in." That sentence, simple, undeniable, hit like a punch. Because it was true. Alex had let Jamie in. Not fully, but enough that pulling away now felt like ripping Velcro apart from inside their chest. Alex's panic surged, drowning out logic. Well, maybe that was a mistake. Jamie flinched. Small, but unmistakable. "If that's how you feel." The silence that followed was suffocating. Alex wanted to backtrack, to soften the blow, to say anything other than the fear-driven words they'd just thrown like weapons. But the old instinct, the childhood instinct, was louder. Push them away before they see the real you. Push them away before they decide you're not worth staying for. Push them away before they leave on their own. Jamie stepped back slowly, holding the movie tickets like they weren't sure what to do with their hands. "I care about you, Alex. I'm not going to pretend I don't. But I can't keep guessing whether you want me here or not." "I didn't ask you." Alex started again, but Jamie held up a hand. "I know. You keep saying that." Then quieter. "I just thought maybe you wanted someone. Even a little." Jamie turned and walked down the hallway, quietly, softly, without slamming doors or making grand exits. Somehow that made it hurt more. Alex stood frozen as panic morphed into guilt, guilt morphed into fear, fear morphed into a crushing sense of having messed up something fragile and rare. They retreated into their apartment and sank to the floor, back against the door, breathing too fast. They didn't mean the things they said. Not the way they said them. But fear never cared about accuracy. Fear cared about survival, and Alex had survived for a long time by pushing people away. But for the first time, surviving felt like losing. That night, sleep didn't come. Regret did. Echoes of the fight replayed relentlessly, each replay sharper than the last. Alex wasn't ready to admit it out loud, but the truth was clear. They didn't want distance. They wanted safety. They wanted closeness, terrified as they were of it. They wanted Jamie. And losing the one person who saw through the cracks, that was a fear bigger than being seen. For 2 days, Alex hid. Not in the theatrical sense, no dramatic lights-off solitude, No curtains drawn like a sad movie. Just the quiet withdrawal of someone trying to shrink their existence to avoid facing the consequences of their own words. They woke early, came home late, skipped their usual grocery run, took the stairs instead of the elevator. It was a strategy built from old survival instincts. Reduce visibility, reduce vulnerability. But the problem was simple and cruel. Alex didn't actually want to run. They just didn't trust themselves to stand still. The silence in their apartment was different now. No longer a familiar blanket of solitude. It had edges, corners, shadows. It felt like stepping into a room missing a window. You could breathe, but the air felt wrong. Every time Alex walked past the plant Jamie gave them, the guilt got heavier. Every time they saw the crooked bookshelf through Jamie's open door across the hall, their chest tightened. Regret clung to them like humidity. By the third day, Alex cracked. They were standing in the elevator, staring at the far wall, lost in the memory of Jamie's hurt expression. The way they didn't yell, the way they didn't fight back, the way they simply accepted Alex's fear-fueled words as a boundary, one they tried to respect, even if it hurt. Alex hated themselves for it. At work, the frustration was worse. A co-worker asked a simple question, and Alex snapped. Their supervisor pulled them aside. "You seem off. Everything okay?" Alex lied. "I'm fine." But the words tasted like cardboard. The entire day felt like walking underwater. By evening, Alex was so worn down they forgot to check the hallway before stepping out of the elevator. And of course, that's when they saw Jamie. Jamie was coming in from outside, jacket half unzipped, hair damp from the misty weather. They looked tired, not angry, not cold, just tired. Jamie saw Alex, hesitated, then nodded softly, polite, distant. A stranger's nod. That hurt more than the fight itself. Alex opened their mouth. Nothing came out. Fear clogged their throat like cement. Words scrambled in their chest, too tangled to form. Jamie walked past. Something inside Alex snapped. They turned abruptly. "Jamie, wait." Jamie stopped. Slowly, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. They turned just enough to show they were listening, but not enough to step closer. Alex's palms were sweating. Their heart was a frantic drum. "About the other night, I'm sorry." Jamie blinked. "Okay. Just okay. No warmth, no softness, no absolution. And Alex deserved that. They knew it. "I didn't mean what I said," Alex pushed out. "Not like that. I just panic. Sometimes. When things get too close, or when I feel like I'm going to screw everything up." Jamie's expression softened a fraction, but only a fraction. "I know you were scared, but I don't know what you actually want, Alex. One minute you let me in, the next you shut the door in my face." Alex's voice cracked. "I want..." Words failed. Fear surged. Old memories hissed that closeness only led to loss. Jamie waited. Patient. Quiet. But clearly protecting themselves now. Alex forced out the truth, raw and trembling. "I don't want you to leave." Jamie inhaled sharply, not in surprise, but in relief, like they'd been holding their breath since the fight. "But I don't," Alex faltered. "I don't know how to be close to people, not without messing it up." Jamie stepped closer. Just one small step. "You don't have to know, you just have to try." Alex swallowed hard, fighting the instinct to pull back. Trying is scary. "I know," Jamie said gently, "but you don't have to try alone." Silence swelled in the hallway. Not the cold kind from before, but a fragile, hopeful kind. A space big enough for honesty, but small enough to feel intimate. Jamie didn't reach out, didn't demand, didn't pressure. They simply waited, giving Alex room to stand in their truth without collapsing under it. And for the first time, Alex didn't run, didn't hide, didn't retreat behind the old rules that kept them lonely but safe. Instead, they whispered, "I'm scared all the time." Jamie nodded. "Then let me be scared with you." The honesty in that sentence hit Alex like the softest punch, gentle, devastating, necessary. For a moment, everything felt suspended. Fear, hope, regret, possibility, all hovering together in one breath. Alex didn't know what came next, didn't know how to rebuild trust, didn't know how to quiet the fear long enough to let something real begin. But this tiny moment of staying instead of running, felt like the first true step.